Are you looking to buy the best pre-built gaming PC in 2026 without wasting your money on a bad deal? We've got you covered. Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. In this best pre-built gaming PC 2026 buying guide, we're going to focus on the important information that you need to choose the best gaming PC in 2026 for you, and we'll make specific product recommendations for every budget level. So whether you're looking for the best budget pre-built gaming PC to play esports titles, the best 1440p pre-built gaming PC, or the ultimate 4K pre-built gaming PC in 2026, we've got the pick for you. So the number one thing you need to focus on when you're buying the best pre-built gaming PC in 2026, it's the graphics card, or GPU for short. Now there's a ton of different graphics card models out there, from AMD Radeon to NVIDIA GeForce, even Intel Arc GPUs. The graphics card needs to be fast enough to give you enough frames per second, that's FPS for short, at the monitor resolution that you want to game at, 1080p, 1440p, or 4K. And your graphics card needs enough video RAM, or VRAM, to run the latest titles. That's different from the system RAM, which we will cover in just a second. For 1440p gaming, I recommend 12 gigabytes of VRAM. For 4K gaming, I recommend 16 gigabytes of VRAM. And for budget gaming, we're going to see some 8 gigabyte GPUs as well. For graphics card speeds, just remember that some games are super easy to run, like CS2 or Valorant, and you get tons of FPS even on weaker graphics cards, while other games really stress the graphics card, like Borderlands 4 or Cyberpunk 2077. For 4K gaming or extremely high 1440p FPS, the NVIDIA RTX 5090 and RTX 5080, those are the fastest graphics cards available right now. The RTX 5070 Ti and Radeon RX 9070 XT, they're really strong 1440p graphics cards, or good for solid 4K gaming at ultra details. The RX 9070 16GB is also good for either 4K or high 1440p FPS, though it is harder to find in pre-builts in 2026. Dropping down to solid 1440p graphics cards, we've got the RTX 5070 12GB. Would be strong enough for 4K, but its 12 gigabytes of VRAM does hold it back to mostly 1440p gaming. Dropping down a little bit, we have the RX 9060 XT 16GB and RTX 5060 Ti 16GB graphics cards, which have similar performance. We also have the Intel Arc B580 12GB, which is a good graphics card for 60 FPS 1440p gaming, but slower than the other two previous graphics cards. Now here's the first pre-built gaming PC buying mistake that you want to avoid. There are also 8GB versions of the RTX 5060 Ti and RX 9060 XT that 1440p gamers should avoid. While 8GB, it's fine for budget gaming PCs, you don't want to spend over $1,200 or more just to find out that your PC is VRAM limited in titles at 1440p. So if you are a 1440p gamer looking at one of these graphics cards, make sure you see the 16GB versions listed in the specs, not the 8GB versions. And if it doesn't say, I would just assume it's the 8GB version. Dropping down to 1080p budget graphics cards, we've got a mix of like new and older graphics cards here, like the RTX 5060 8GB, RX 9060 XT 8GB, RTX 5050 8GB, and if you can still find them, the RTX 4060 8GB and RTX 3060 12GB. You can also sometimes find the Intel Arc B570 10GB. It's about as fast as an RTX 3060. Does it matter what brand of graphics card you buy, like AMD Radeon, NVIDIA GeForce, or Intel Arc graphics cards? Well, NVIDIA, they used to be the dominant GPU maker for gamers, but with the RX 9000 series graphics cards, AMD has really caught up, and often at a discount from similar performance NVIDIA GPUs. Both AMD and NVIDIA both have excellent upscalers, DLSS 4 for NVIDIA and FSR 4 for AMD. Intel trails a little bit with their upscaler XeSS and overall driver support, but they do offer more VRAM at lower price points. If I personally was buying a gaming PC with 3 similar performance graphics cards at the same price with the same specs, I'd lean very slightly to the NVIDIA GPU, then a very close second would be the AMD Radeon GPU, and a more distant third would be Intel. Now the second most important thing when you're buying the best pre-built gaming PC in 2026, it's the CPU, of course. Now we want a gaming CPU that's fast enough that it doesn't bottleneck our graphics card. AMD Ryzen CPUs have become the most popular gaming CPUs, and the fastest right now are the Ryzen 9850X3D and Ryzen 9800X3D, followed closely by the 7800X3D. Those 3D V-cache on those CPUs, it's incredibly powerful for gaming when paired with a very fast graphics card, but it matters less as we come down in overall graphics power. Just below them in gaming performance are the Ryzen 7000 and 9000 series CPUs, typically like the Ryzen 9700X, 7700X, 9600X, or 7600X. Ryzen 9 CPUs like the 9950X and 9900X, they're really just for professional workstation PCs. They don't help gaming performance over a CPU like the Ryzen 7 9700X, and it's just a waste of money if you mostly game. We also have Intel CPUs with similar performance, like the Core Ultra 7 265K or 13th and 14th generation Intel CPUs with a K in the name, like the i5 14600K. Dropping down to more budget gaming CPUs, we've got like the Ryzen 5600, 5600X, and 5700X, and some Intel CPUs like the i5 14400, even the i5 12400 or Core Ultra 5 CPUs. We've also got the Ryzen 8000 series CPUs, which despite the naming, they're actually not as good as the 7000 and 9000 series. Then in the ultra budget segment, we're going to see some CPUs. They're not the best for a variety of reasons, but they're going to do fine with lower end graphics cards. I'm talking about the Ryzen 5500 or 5700 non-X or any of the i3 CPUs. All right, let's talk about how much RAM you need in 2026, because we are currently in a global RAM shortage, and it's driven by insane demand from AI data centers. Unfortunately, it's not going away anytime soon. We'd love to get 32 gigabytes of RAM in our pre-built gaming PC in 2026. Despite increased RAM prices, I'm still finding that pre-built gaming PCs above $1,500 still have 32 gigabytes, though that may change as the year goes on and RAM prices go up. For pre-built gaming PCs under $1,500, we'll probably have to get about 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is the minimum. Unless you really do high-end professional work, you do not need more than 32 gigabytes of RAM. In terms of DDR4 versus DDR5 RAM, for higher-end graphics cards, we usually want CPUs that can utilize DDR5 RAM, like Ryzen 7000 and higher CPUs, along with the Core Ultra 200 series. Intel 12th, 13th, and 14th gen CPUs can use either one, DDR4 or DDR5, but they have higher performance with DDR5, so if you have a high-end graphics cards, that's what you want. For more budget systems, given that DDR4 RAM is way cheaper than DDR5 right now, and we're in that big global RAM shortage, most system builders are going to go with DDR4 to save cost. For RAM speed, systems using DDR4 should have 3200 or 3600 speed RAM. For DDR5, we'd love to see 5600 or 6000 speed RAM, but 5200 probably good as well. Here's one really overlooked thing that can destroy your gaming performance: not getting enough CPU cooling and airflow in your pre-built gaming PC. You end up thermally throttling and losing FPS. For the CPU cooler, the bigger the CPU, the more cooling it needs. Downdraft style coolers, those are fine for lower heat CPUs like the 6-core Ryzen CPUs, Ryzen 7600X, 5600X, or the i5 12400. We'd love to see single tower air coolers or liquid coolers for Ryzen 7 CPUs like the 7700X or 9700X, along with the budget Intel CPUs like the i5 14400. For Ryzen X3D CPUs and higher end Intel CPUs with a K in their name, like the Ultra 7 265K, we really want a dual tower air cooler or at least a 240mm all-in-one liquid cooler. In 2026, liquid coolers are way more popular. They just survive the shipping process better than those big air coolers. Finally, we have how upgradable your pre-built gaming PC is. If it's built with off-the-shelf parts like I would use, that's called a system integrator. And there's lots of those, from ABS to Skytech, CyberPower PC, iBuyPower, and others. Those systems should be fully upgradable. Then we have systems built with custom-made parts specific to that manufacturer, and we call those OEM pre-builts, like HP, Dell, Lenovo, and others. Those PCs might have parts that aren't standard, though sometimes they do use standard parts, and they may not be upgradable. I mostly recommend fully upgradable pre-built gaming PCs built by system integrators, but sometimes an OEM pre-built, it's just such a good deal you can't pass it up. I'll also list out any OEM ones in the links in the video description. All right, let's jump into the best pre-built gaming PC 2026 product recommendations. Links are going to be down in the video description, and I'm going to break them out by 4K, 1440p, and budget pre-built gaming PCs. Now, I list the PCs in order of their theoretical FPS performance based on the listed specs, so a PC listed higher up that list should be faster than one lower down the list. We update this list of best deals every couple days, so keep checking it for the latest deals. A fire emoji, it means it's a great deal. 2 fire emojis means it's an amazing deal for the price. All right, let's jump into RTX 5090 pre-built gaming PCs in 2026. Now, a couple notes here. Let's talk about pricing. Right now, this is the cheapest one I'm going to show you. It's $4,800. I expect the prices on these will likely continue to go up. 2 reasons. Number one, RAM prices continue to increase. They're going to pass on that cost to you. The second is the cost of the 5090 itself is going up, so I expect them to also continue to pass that cost on. What will you pay? It's hard to say. Check the links in the video description for the current best deals that we can find on these, but this is the the ultimate in terms of performance. So you know you're spending a little extra here to get the ultimate tier performance, basically. And that being said, let's jump into the first RTX 5090 pre-built gaming PC here. This is the Skytech Prison 4. This is a great case, by the way. It's the Montech King 95 case. It's an amazing looking gaming PC, which is what you should expect for a 5090. And this one comes with 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM at 6,000 speed. That is insane right now, 64 gigs. I don't expect that will continue to be the case because, again, RAM price is going up. 32 gigs is probably what you're going to find. This comes with an X870 board. And the most important part here is it comes with a Ryzen 9800X 3D gaming CPU. It's the fastest gaming CPU as I'm writing this. However, the 9850X 3D should be coming out here in the next couple of months. You'll likely see it down, if you check those links in the video description, you'll probably see it in some of those after it comes out. $47.99, overall pretty good deal. 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe SSD, 1200 watt PSU. This is just a god tier level gaming PC. Also want to talk about another type of it you might see is a little bit more of a creator setup here. This is the ABS Aruis Ruby. ABS is Newegg's in-house brand. Newegg is one of the largest PC parts retailers in the US. Sometimes they take the off-the-shelf parts, they put them together, and they build a gaming PC, pre-built gaming PCs. That's under the ABS label. What I like about ABS, before we get to the specs of this particular one, is you can see they actually tell you exactly what you're going to get. They're not just saying, hey, you're going to get a B850 motherboard or X870 motherboard. They're going to tell you exactly which one. Same with the GPU. They're going to tell you which type of GPU you're going to get. You get MSI, Ventus, RTX 5090. Most of them are just like, hey, you're getting a 5090. Good luck with you. And then, of course, they're going to tell you exactly what RAM you're going to get. It's DDR5 6400, likely CL32. 32 gigs of it here, not 64 gigs. But what are you getting here? What's the difference on this one? You're getting a 9950X3D. That is a super high-end gaming CPU. It's possible we'll see a 9950X3D2 coming very soon. There's rumors on that, but right now, if you want the max production and gaming, this is the one you're going to get. If you just want gaming, I would get a 9800X3D, but otherwise pick this one up. Jumping into the best 4K pre-built gaming PCs in 2026 that don't have an RTX 5090 in them. And what's the first thing you notice? Look at that price, $2,700, as opposed to almost double that for the RTX 5090. The reason is the 5090 is the kind of ultimate premium tier, and you're going to pay ultimate premium tier money. If you want something that feels a little bit more safe and sane, this is kind of where those start right here. Remember to check the links down in the video description. And the GPUs we're looking here for in descending power are the RTX 5080, the 5070 Ti, and 9070 XT are roughly equal. Then you can also consider the 9070 non-XT 16 gigabyte as well, although I usually use that for 1440p. So let's jump into this. $2,700 right now for an RTX 5080 PC. What do you get with that? Well, this is ABS. Again, we already went through ABS and who they are. They're going to list all the specific parts on that, which I really like. This is the KS2 case. Some people like the design a lot of this. Other people, not so much. So really, you can always get one that's kind of customized to your aesthetics. Typically, there's a white version, a black version. I try and pick out really good deals for different aesthetics as well. 32 gigs, DDR5, 6400, along with a 9800X 3D, Ryzen 9800X 3D. This thing is ready to rock with 2 terabytes of NVMe SSD storage, and overall, it's just a really good value. Speaking of the color choices here, this is the Skytech Gaming Aqua. Now, this case, obviously, very different approach on this case. 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler on the top. I haven't really talked about the coolers just yet on these. All these are going to be liquid cooled at the ultra high end. I like liquid coolers. They're a little quieter overall when the fans ramp up on them. You won't usually find air coolers until the lower end stuff. Those big bulky air coolers do not ship that well. These liquid coolers ship a lot better. Very similar specs to what we just looked at, except 850 watt gold PSU, which is perfectly adequate for what we're doing here with the Ryzen 9800X 3D. Just a very different approach. Another $100, kind of just stylistic difference. All right, dropping down a little bit in terms of GPU power, and also dropping down in terms of budget, closer to $2,000. Basically, we either have an RTX 5070 Ti, that's an NVIDIA GPU, or an RX 9070 XT. Both of them have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and they are essentially the same performer, almost identically. Let's start with this one from iBuyPower with the 5070 Ti, the Ryzen 9700X CPU. Notice it's not an X3D CPU anymore. I think this is a pretty good configuration. The reason I pulled this one out by iBuyPower is because it's in their Height Y40 case, which is absolutely insane. Everybody had to have this case a couple of years ago. I think it still looks absolutely amazing. And they are going to vertically mount the GPU. They're going to vertically mount the GPU, so there's obvious kind of aesthetic additions to this one. That's why you're going to pay a little bit more money at $2,100 here. Again, price is probably going up this year. This might look cheap in a couple months, but right now it's a pretty good configuration with a 1TB NVMe and a great looking system. Similar setup here from SkyTech. Just want to show you can basically get the same thing in a different looking package. And this is the only difference between the two. Essentially, it's the aesthetics. The iBuyPower one looks a little nicer. If you're looking for that aesthetic, I prefer front intake PC cases. This is kind of more old school. Again, with a Ryzen 9700X, same exact specs basically. Slightly slower RAM speed here, really won't make a difference. But you save $100 over at Amazon. And then here's a deal I'm almost hesitate to show because it's so good and I'm afraid it's just gonna sell out completely, but you know, that's what happens sometimes. $1,800 right now. Why is this such a good deal? It's got a Ryzen 7800X3D. Now, despite the fact that that's a 7, and we were looking at CPUs with a 9700X, it's kind of confusing, the X3D CPU will smoke those other CPUs in terms of overall gaming power. However, the 9070 XT and 5070 Ti, they're really fast, but they're not like 5090 level fast. So it makes a little bit less difference with these GPUs. That being said, out of the ones that I just showed you with the 5070 Ti or 9070 XT, this is going to be the fastest right now. Otherwise, configuration is very similar. 32 gigs of system RAM, 1TB NVMe SSD, 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler on the top. $1,800. This is a great deal. And then finally, just one more configuration I wanted to show you. SkyTech Gaming Aqua right now. The reason I'm showing you this one, first of all, it's an all-white configuration, very similar to the RTX 5080 PC we looked at. But this has a 9070 XT 16 gigabyte, and it has a Core Ultra 9, an Intel CPU, 285K. It's going to be stronger in terms of multi-threaded performance for like big, heavy creator workflows. That being said, the 7800X3D, 9700X, those are great CPUs for most amateur level stuff. So unless you're a super pro, I would probably grab those. But if you are a super pro and you want to consider something like super high-end video editing, maybe you grab this. Let's jump into the best 1440p pre-built gaming PC 2026. Links are in the video description. We'll continue to update those with the best deals that we can find. Remember, any of those 4K gaming PCs would just crush it at 1440p. So feel free to grab one of those if you have a little bit more budget. But if you don't have budget and you want to play 1440p, let's start with this and then we'll work our way down. $1,700 seems like the high mark right now. And this is the SkyTech Gaming Zur 3. I love this case. This is an atrium style case, so couple glass panels on it. I love the digital readout on the bottom there in terms of temperatures and everything. It looks super cool. It's got a 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. But what graphics card are we using here? We're looking for either a 9070 16 gigabyte, which we would prefer, or the RTX 5070 12 gigabyte GPU, which is just as good for 1440p gaming, but the 9070 is faster with more VRAM, and they both have great upscalers in terms of FSR4 and DLSS4. This is with the Ryzen 7700X, so we're kind of in the solid mid-range now. We're going to find more mid-range CPUs. You can still overspend and get a 7800X3D or 9800X3D, but you're going to end up spending a lot more money than getting a higher end graphics card. And that was what I would recommend here. 2TB NVMe SSD is a big win on this one. Again, 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. It looks amazing for $1,700. Here is an insane deal that I just found. This is the CyberPower PC gaming desktop. So this is with a Ryzen 7800X3D. Jason, I thought you said these would be super expensive. Normally they are. This is an insane deal right now. This is a RTX 5070 12 gigabyte. So normally I would say you don't need this power of CPU, but if they're going to give it to you for $1,679, it is awful hard to turn down. I will note only 1TB NVMe SSDs. Now that's becoming a lot more standard because SSD prices have really gone up as well. Unfortunately, all that AI out there is eating all the RAM and the SSDs in the world. Overall, though, it's a great unit. Same kind of the atrium style case there. 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. Really hard to turn down for $1,679. All right, moving down in terms of graphics card power, we do take a little bit of a jump down here to the RTX 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte and RX 9060 XT 16 gigabyte. Don't get the 8 gigabyte versions of these. Those are budget graphics cards. You want the 16 gigabyte. And as you can see, the price also took a big dip as well. We're now about $1,450. This is Stormcraft. I don't know why they all have similar sounding names, but they are a different company than SkyTech, by the way, and they're a more recent entry. They do a really good job. They have some kind of unique looking cases. Like I really like this particular micro ATX case. It's got an air cooler on it. You'll notice that instead of a liquid cooler. That's going to become much more of a feature of this PCs as we come down in price towards $1,000 here. And the other thing I want you to note, this has an i5-14400F. It's not an Intel CPU with a K in the name, like I said before, so it's not super fast, but it is paired with DDR5 RAM, which actually gives it quite a bit more performance. So it's going to perform not quite like a Ryzen 7600X, but in the ballpark, which is fine for the RTX 5060 Ti and RX 9060 XT 16GB GPUs. Overall, good performer here for $1,449, and it looks amazing. So very similar system to the one I just showed you. It's about $150 less. Obviously, the aesthetics are a little bit different. This one's a little bit more industrial looking, perfectly good looking PC if I do say so myself. But the big difference here is that i5-14400F, same gaming CPU, but this one uses DDR4 RAM because 12th, 13th, and 14th gen Intel can use DDR4 or DDR5. Obviously not at the same time, you have to pick, but this is going to give you lower performance than the PC that we just looked at in more CPU-intensive titles. So think like CS2, when you turn all the settings down and you're just maxing out your frame rate, this is going to give you slightly less performance than the other one that we just looked at. And of course, maybe you prefer one aesthetic over another. Right now, $1,300 over at Newegg. And then you can tell, we're dropping down in price because now we're using an RX 9060 XT. Here's Skytech's entry. Again, an i5-14400F. Remember that CPU, you are going to see it everywhere because again, it can use DDR4 or DDR5. It's a really flexible CPU. So a lot of system integrators really like it. Pretty decent performer, especially at this GPU level. And this is 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, which is just really, really good. Now the speed on this RAM, it is a little slow. But that being said, the Intel CPUs actually don't seem to care that much about the slower speed on the like 5200 stuff here. $1,249. I would probably pick this one up. It's got a great looking air cooler, especially if you want to look for something that's kind of more in a white aesthetic. And then here's another great one. I like this one quite a bit because probably higher performance than the ones that we just looked at. $1,299. This is the ABS Cyclone. Remember, ABS is Newegg's in-house brand. So this has a Ryzen 5 9600X, which is going to be a much faster gaming CPU than the i5-14400F. However, we're at a relatively, I'd say, kind of mainstream GPU level. We're not at the high end anymore. So the CPU differences kind of start to shrink because our GPU is what's controlling everything. That being said, this is going to be the more powerful in terms of gaming FPS, especially if you're into like esports shooters and things like that. 32 gigs of DDR5, 6,000 speed memory is 2 thumbs up. This is really the area where we could start seeing 16 gig. We don't want to see 16 gigs. I think at some point in the year, we'll probably have to accept that. But right now, this is a great gaming PC for $1,300. All right, jumping to the best budget pre-built gaming PC 2026. This is the ABS Cyclone. Now, the key thing here is it's using the Intel Arc B580. This is a 12 gigabyte GPU. Honestly, I think the Intel Arc GPUs are pretty good. I do like the Arc B580. It's a little bit faster than like an RTX 3060, but it's not as fast as an RTX 5060, but it does have more VRAM, so you're not going to run into those situations where you have to turn all the graphical settings down because you've run out of VRAM. That's what I like about it. It gives overall solid FPS, but if you're into super esports titles and that's it, you might want to look at RTX 5060. That being said, this one performs pretty well. This is ABS, i5-13400F, 13400F, 14400F is actually the same CPU. They just changed the number on it. 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Again, slightly slower performance, but you're getting 32 gigs of system RAM under $1,000, which is kind of unheard of right now. 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. This is actually just a super good deal. I love the PC case and the cooler on it as well for $929. All right, dropping down to the best cheap pre-built gaming PC in 2026. You're basically looking here for an RTX 5060, RTX 5050, a 9060 XT 8 gigabyte, possibly a 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte. One of those GPUs. 4060s are hard to find. They've kind of gone off the market. So have 3060 12 gigabytes out there. Possibly an Arc B570 10 gigabyte as well. So that kind of potpourri of GPUs is what you're looking for with roughly-ish the same level of performance. $899 is a pretty good deal over at Walmart right now. This is for an AMD Ryzen 5 8400F. Not the greatest CPU in the world. These were APUs. They turned them into CPUs, but they're perfectly fine for something like an RTX 5060, 8 gigabyte, has 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. Again, we've gone from 32 gigs to 16 gigs, and I think this is going to increasingly be the story in 2026 as RAM prices have gone up. And then a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, $899. It's not bad. It comes in a nice looking package, by the way. Great cooler, RGB cooler, great side panel case overall, so not bad. And then if you're just looking to kind of just get into gaming as cheap as you can, you're roughly looking at $800, although I will say as the year goes on, I think that even this price point is going to go up. Zotac does a pretty good job with these. This is their mech. Now, Zotac's a GPU maker, but they also do pre-built systems. So this is with an AMD Ryzen 5 5500. That is a PCIe Gen 3 CPU. It's perfectly fine for an RTX 5050 GPU, but it is an older CPU, but that's what you're getting here at the lower end. That being said, look at that PC case. It's pretty amazing. It's a GAMDIAS one. I actually have that one with the digital readout on the bottom. Absolutely love it. And it comes with 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM on this one. Again, lower performance, but for $800, this is pretty good. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description. We're going to keep changing those links on a regular basis as we find better deals. If you got value, by the way, out of this video, please give it a like. Really, really appreciate it. And of course, subscribe for more cool PC content. And we'll catch you on the next one.